Let's see if this works. Okay, we're going to try this again.
Said you like. How did you notice that nobody but members
Well, the
could...
green, everyone who did it was green, and then somebody sent me a message via Facebook.
Oh.
To tell me that it wasn't working. That they were on the live and they couldn't get through.
Well, that's kind of sucky. Let's hope it works now if people find us back again, hopefully.
Okay.
Let me go ahead and get connected up again. Alright, hello everybody. Hopefully this is working again. We will see. Well, we got 9 people on here, so it's working. Hopefully non-members can put in a comment, because that wasn't working on our first try.
Yeah, it said that chat was in members only mode. I don't have like a way to set chat into members only mode. People are showing up. We're just hoping that we can hear people. So Violet posted on my timeline, but that doesn't help me here. Well, that's a weird thing to have a show. And not be able to talk to anybody.
Well,
Face, YouTube, ARG.
it's looking like it's still the same thing. I'm not seeing the comments.
She messaged me. No, it's still showing members only mode. Can't comment.
Well, that sucks.
Yeah, that really sucks. Like, is there a way...
Where's that at? How did you...
Well, members only... This is privatization or
right.
privacy, and it's gone on.
Right.
It's on public.
Right.
They got community moderation, participants...
But how do you know it's members only mode?
Because she told me.
Okay, on Facebook. Okay.
Right there.
Cool.
So we still have a problem. That's probably just some stupid thing. Yeah, it's just going to tell us how to do that. Settings.
Maybe if it ever comes through.
Yeah. Got the moderators. These are filters. Live redirects.
Channel.
Locked links.
Okay, scroll back up again. I mean, go to defaults and see if somehow that got...
Allow all comments.
That's just comments, yeah.
Hold potentially inappropriate comments. Hold all comments. Disable comments. Nope.
No, that's not it. I think you want to go back to comments the way it was too, but yeah, I'm not seeing. Sorry, everybody.
Apparently, we're going to have a technical issue.
Yet again.
No, that doesn't have it. Permissions we already looked at. This is just our roles. Yep. Community. Let me try that.
Okay, you let me on there real quick and I'll see if I can find something if you want. Since this apparently is just gonna...
Okay. Remember, you are visible while we're doing this.
Yeah, well. That's the way it goes. They'll just have to put up with me the way I am.
If you can figure this out, you are a technical genius.
I don't know about that, but okay. So, okay. And let's go back to here.
It was fun, I'm sure, for everyone to watch.
Well, hey, you know.
That's what happens. We did one members only live show, and now it's messed up our
Stuck
settings
on that.
forever. Like, hey. Software programs.
That it says, okay, we don't want to do that. Ah, here you go.
Found it?
It's under customization and who can send messages. And it was on members only.
Okay. We had to hit save on that, so.
So there we go.
All right. Yay.
But the question is, we'll have to try it again and see if that actually, if we have to start and stop.
Members only mode is off. Everybody can chat now.
Oh, awesome.
Thank you guys
Yeah,
for letting us know.
I see that on mine too.
Ava says, hi, hello. We can see and hear you,
Hi,
just can't
Jonathan.
comment. You can now, though. So
Hi,
everything
Shay.
is good.
Hi, everybody.
All I can say is, that was annoying. I thought, people are here, I know. Yes, Fabiana says hi. Emerald Dawn says it's working. Shay says
All
hello.
right.
Erin says hello. Sorry I'm late. What happened?
Awesome.
Apparently we had a bad setting. Violet says woo. Pamela says good afternoon. Frankie says yay. Vanessa V says hello. Moonfire Dawn says yay. Hello me. Welcome back. Shay says Ian, you're brilliant. Angela says hi. We were trapped on the other side of the YouTube door. Violet says ha ha. Annoying. Angela says, but now we're free. Hi, everyone. And I still have a video on my screen of you leaning over me, so I can't see what I look like right now.
Oh, it's not.
Yep.
Oh, well.
You're frozen.
Well, you look just
But
fine.
it's working, so I don't care. If I can't see it, that's fine. All right. So, hey. Ava says, I'm glad you got it working. So am I. That would have been a very annoying. And Shay says, happy birthday week, Siofra. Thank you. Balloonhead says hello. Hi, everyone. All right. Now I can breathe. Yes. Went over to my son's yesterday and had dinner at his place, which was fun because this is the first time we've actually been able to just sit down at his house and just kind of, you know, hang out. So that was awesome. Angela says you look lovely. Thank you. I appreciate that. Even if I can't see what I look like, I can still see the clock, so I'm good to go.
Yeah, it's working fine. I can see you just fine. So it's
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just extremely delayed. Now I'm leaving and you're coming.
Really? That's
Yes,
pretty
that's really delayed.
Well, it's working fine.
So yeah,
Are you getting you're getting the
I'm getting the
text?
text, obviously. Yeah. And Violet says I always get annoyed in this house. So when you said so annoying, I just laughed out loud. Happy birthday, lady. Hi, Ian. Thank
Hello,
you,
Violet.
Violet. Ruth says hi all and happy birthday. Thank you, Ruth. Yes, Tuesday is my official birthday, and I've decided what I'm doing for my birthday. We're going to go to a sushi restaurant. We don't go out to eat very often. And it's about the only thing we've been doing, you know, when we go to restaurants at this point. And then I'm going to go watch Avatar: The Way of Water in 3D at our local theater. So this will be the first time I've been in a theater since COVID started. It's probably the only movie that could get me to go in at this point. So I'm looking forward to that. So that'll be fun. So Ava says happy birthday. Pamela says happy birthday. Angela says happy birthday. Angela says, oh, that movie looks good. Eve says, merry meet. Hi, Eve. Violet says, is that a new Avatar? Yes, it is. It's the next one. It only took, what, 15 years to get it or something?
Well, and the big problem was they were concerned it cost so much to make. They were concerned they weren't actually going to make their money back, but
Yep.
turns out they did.
I think they're doing all right. So TM says happy birthday. Thank you, TM. Eve says happy birth anniversary. I like that. That works. Yep. And we were talking about my birth story. When I was a kid, my mother always told me this story that the battleship Missouri ran aground in the harbor where I was born on the minute of my birth. And a few years back, I thought I'd look into that, and she was wrong. It did on the day I was born, but it was in the morning, not in the afternoon when I made my appearance. So I thought that was entertaining. Angela says, hugs to everyone. I'm hugging the world today. So continuing hug day by hugging all of you. Thank you. We like hugs.
Absolutely.
And Balloonhead says, that sounds fun. Happy birthday. Yes, I think it's going to be lots of fun. Although we have to get earplugs. They always have them so loud in the theater that it hurts my ears, and I end up having to wear earplugs when I go to a movie theater.
I like that. We'll make it official hug day. At least
That's
for
right.
us today.
All right. Angela says, I've been on the Mighty Mo ship. It was super cool, like a giant battleship piece.
Well, that was weird. Eve put up like an emoji there, and
And
yet
it blocked it?
it blocked it. Yeah.
Okay then.
I have no idea why.
Well, who knows? YouTube's got their own thing. But that looks nice. I like it. Angela says, I did not like the stairs on it, though. They were half ladder, half stairs. Very frightening for me. Oh, on the ship. Yeah, my father was in the Navy, and he was on the Lady, which was an aircraft carrier, when we were stationed up in Rhode Island. And we went on the ship for Thanksgiving dinner. They did a Thanksgiving feast or whatever on board ship one year. And it's very narrow, big. You have to step over these things because they have all those doors that have to be water sealed when they close and stuff. So there's these big things and very loud, clanky. I remember that. I didn't care for it too much. Angela says it's a huge emoji.
Hug emoji.
Oh, a hug. I added the E from the emoji part and made it huge.
Well, yeah, we can see it. The only thing that puzzled me was it said it was held for review.
Yeah.
It was like, I have no idea why it was held for review. It's just a blue people hug.
Yeah, there's just two people hugging each other. Like maybe they think there's something else going on.
Who knows?
He says it was blue people hug. Yeah, Angela. That must be it. Weird. Well, who knows about these things that go on beyond our ability to control in some cases. YouTube holds emojis for review for some reason lately. Just in case they're like
Using them inappropriately.
inappropriate emojis, yeah. I don't know.
The old eggplant emoji,
I don't know. But hey. So we're back. We're good. We're happening. So you were, before we discovered we couldn't talk to anybody, talking about mudras.
Yeah, well, there's not too much to say there. I use them a little bit. I don't know a whole lot about them or a whole lot of them, but they're...
Isn't it one of the most common ones? This one that people use when they're meditating? That's sort of is that a mudra?
Well, it is, but I don't know if it's a legitimate one. I mean, you could call it a mudra, but mudras are basically body positions that you hold yourself in for a period of time to connect with a certain type of energy or energy flow. So you hold that position, pull it in. Some of them are just hand positions, some of them are whole body positions. Most of them are hand positions, hand mudras and things. So they call that a mudra, I guess, this is like the yoni cat wall where you're blocking all your openings.
So you're blocking your eyes, your nose, and your mouth?
Yep.
And your ears?
And your ears.
So you're going like this, this.
Well,
this?
the pinkies are supposed to be in the mouth, I believe.
Pinkies, okay.
I never can remember exactly how it goes. But
The.
yeah. Something like
Something
that.
like that, apparently.
But the idea is to get all your senses turned internally. Even if you're doing that correct, you're sitting in siddhasana, which means you're also blocking your anal aperture with your heel, and you've got, if you have male organs, you've got them retracted into your pubic arch, providing you're able to do that.
Okay, so
For the whole thing, for that.
mhm.
But anyway, sorry.
Well, so Violet says PayPal held a payment for review also. It made no sense. Tech is acting weird. Is your Facebook acting weird today? Well, it seemed to have worked well to let us know what was happening. And Mercury retrograde is what
Yep,
Eve
that's true,
suggested.
it
Is
is.
like, it is still retrograde. It goes direct on the 18th, the day after my birthday. So Angela says Mercury needs its energy put to use so it won't cause trouble. Let's collectively grab the energy by its ear and say, let's do something.
I like that.
Sheila says helps breathing. I do it for asthma. Eve says all electronics are on the fritz. Emails got screwed up, phone calls, etc. Yeah. Balloonhead says, what are some things like mudras in other cultures? Are there things like mudras in other cultures is the question.
Well, yes. Basically, they work a similar fashion. I was once, there are some mudras associated with ninja stuff, at least what they believe ninja stuff was. Those, it's mostly been forgotten, but they've tried to revive it as much as possible. And there are mudras used in that, so I know the Japanese and Chinese use them in different cases, basically the same way. I suspect in Tibet also. But yeah, they're the ones I'm familiar with are basically just positions to hold to connect with a certain energy.
And you can certain create hand positions to tune you into a spell that you've worked or a meditational state that you have.
Barden goes into that,
and
yeah.
stuff like that.
The
So
key
you
to
can
that
make
is
your
lots
own.
of repetition, which is also the key to the mudras and the mantras.
Right, series of movements and so forth. So Jonathan says, I use a hand mudra for focusing on each of my seven chakras. Now when I make the signs with my hands, I'm immediately tuned in. It's cool. I learned that from Avatar: The Last Airbender. Well, that was a pretty cool. I like that movie and that story.
That goes right along, and that's what happens is as you get tuned into these things, they'll put you in that state automatically, so you don't have to. And that's the same purpose of taking an asana, to put you in a meditational state immediately once you're capable of doing it properly, and then you go right into that state, since the only thing you do in that asana is meditate. Yes.
So Eve says, like Moana, grab him by the ear and such. Shay says a mudra is a symbolic or ritual gesture or pose in Hinduism, Jainism, and Buddhism, according to a dictionary definition. Darling says, hello, hi. Jonathan says, incense smoke works better for me than mudras, like the smell of bergamot immediately gets me Venusian. Well, yeah, the mind is so, the smells are the strongest memory link you can have. So if you can link a state of mind to a smell, that's a really good thing.
Most mudras that I've seen...
It's a good state of mind.
In fact, all of the mudras that I've seen have been in still positions. Unlike something doing Tai Chi, which is like a moving meditation. So, the mudras kind of presuppose that you're sitting still meditating in a meditation position. In general, I'm not aware of any where motion is included in the mudra kind of thing, but there's all sorts of stuff like that, you know. When something's true at its core, you can find it spread throughout various different religions and things. If it's true and if it really works, there's no doubt you find it elsewhere. And what I've seen is these things are called by different names, but it's all grammar to a certain extent. A lot of the people really going for this stuff who really understood it end up pretty similar as far as what they end up doing, even though they may call it by completely different terms and think of it differently and visualize it differently. At the core of it, they end up doing a lot of the same stuff.
So Eve says, I don't know if anyone knows what I'm talking about, but I have young kids, so I'm familiar with all the movies. And says hi to Darling. Angela says hugs, Violet, and hope no weird nope, no weird Facebook problems for me. I use more candlelight than electric light lately. Eve says in the Disney movie Moana, she is encouraged by her grandmother to find Maui, grab him by the ear, and instruct him to board her bolt and restore the heart of defeat. And Darling says, hello, Eve. Boat. Yes. Instruct him to board her boat. Gotcha. I haven't watched that one yet. Ava has. And she loves that movie. Or he or she loves that movie. Okay, Ava, score. Balloonhead says, Eve Wolf Moana is such a great movie. You can get a lot of really interesting concepts and stuff through some of these kinds of films.
I guess maybe we ought to watch it.
Yeah. Angela says, and yes, exactly like Moana, Mercury, we are the witchy community. You are coming over here, coming over her and putting your energy to productive use. Jonathan says, I think Barden mentions creating your own hand finger mudras to work with the elements, even with your hand in your pocket.
Yeah, that's true. He doesn't use I don't think he uses the term mudras, but it's basically the same thing. And those are ritual gestures that you link to what you're trying to do. And if you practice them long enough, you don't have to put effort into it anymore. Pretty soon, if you do it enough times, you make the gesture, and then you will whatever it is you're trying to accomplish, and you just repeat that enough times that it ends up becoming automatic. And then after a while, after doing it a bunch of times, you can just do the action and have the result take place. So it's sort of like, it's that idea, like making a groove in the universe again. If you do it long enough, it'll just become automatic. And yeah, not with, I mean, with the elements, yes, but you can also use that for all kinds of other things. If you're using Kabbalah, you could tie the Kabbalistic letters to it. Anyway, the idea is you just make the gesture and get the result. But it takes, at least, if you're very good at concentrating and stuff like Barden recommends, he says it'll be a minimum of like 462 repetitions if you're trying to get an actual physical result out of it. And the Hindus and things say many more, like 100,000 repetitions or whatever, because they don't focus on it the same way. But yeah, similar, but...
So, Nick says hi. Hi, Nick. Balloonhead says, y'all should. It's so cute. Watch the movie. Eve says, you're in for a treat. I'm sure I will love it. I've watched a few of them that I really quite liked, too. Violet says, Angela, I guess that means the Facebook acting weird in my home on both computers is weird to me only. Redirection is all I can think of by an entity, maybe. Ava says, who is Barden?
Well, I'll start with that, and I'll let Siofra finish up from her perspective. I'm a little too tunnel visioned as far as Barden's stuff goes, because I fully believe he was an incarnated adept who he was Czechoslovakian. He lived around 1940 thereabouts, so there's lots of documentation and history and pictures of him being able to do what he said he could do. So to me, I'm convinced he was pretty much an incarnated master, incarnated into a 12-year-old boy to become the guide of his father, who had been praying for a master or a guru for a long time. Incarnated in him and became his instructor and taught him all this stuff, and he wrote 3 of the best books on magic that I've ever seen, I believe. Though the stuff he mentions is so far out to some people, a lot of people believe it's fantastical and can't work. He's got students. Students are still around. His son was still around. I watched an interview with his son. I mean, people who knew him, he could do what he said he could do. There seems no contraindication of that. So, yeah, I think he was one of the greatest adepts of the time, and I think he was truly associated with what people call the Great White Brotherhood, or what he would call the Brethren of Light, Hidden Masters. So that would be my thing. And now I think it would probably be better seeing from your perspective.
Well, he was clearly a ceremonial magician. And he was definitely very well accomplished in everything he did. His books are a fascinating read, and I really like, he's got the 3 main books that he uses. There's a lot of good information in there about how to do ritual and ways of meditation and practices and so forth. His second book on evocations is the best resource for finding out the names and the seals and the descriptions of a bunch of different spirits that exist in
Especially
different
if
planes.
you want to avoid working with
negative ones.
the negative ones, yeah.
Yeah, so, you know, it's, he was also, in some ways, I'm sure, a product of his time, because all of us are, no matter when we are born. But I enjoy his books, and he's, you know, you can buy them.
Yeah, and Jono uses the word hermetic down there, and that's how he terms himself, hermetics, because all the stuff isn't ceremonial. His first book isn't ceremonial, really.
Well, when I think ceremonial, I think hermetics. That's just sort of an association I have, is that
Well, his term is like the second book, where you're using the wands and, you know, making the wands, using them for ritual with beings and stuff. He uses
just a language issue there.
That's true. That's
okay.
Exactly it.
So,
And grammar.
Angela says, no idea, could be Mercury, could be lots of energy. I know sometimes in spell work my tech glitches. I think it's due to high energy. To be on both is a little over the top. He says, Barden is a person who had the good sense to record his findings and choose to share it with the world. Well, he chose to share it reluctantly. He didn't want to. He was told to.
Yeah,
so that makes it a little bit different, actually. He wasn't doing it in order to make a name for himself or for bragging rights or to show everybody what he could do. He was doing it because he was told he needed to share this information with the world, whether he liked it or not.
Pretty much, yeah.
So, Angela says, well, hopefully it fixes itself soon. Yes, and Jonathan says, hermetic
Bodhisattva.
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 Okay.
Steely Dan.
Ewu says, yay, I caught you all live. Hope everyone is well. Yes, we are. And we're glad we finally got everybody to be able to talk to us. That was annoying. Yep. Angela says, blessings, Jonathan and Ewu. Iwi. Jonathan says, hi, Angela. Everybody says hi to each other. Back at ya, blah, blah. Nick says, I find videotape or audio tape on the street or roads and was told it's not good or something. Any ideas for blessing the areas? I don't know. Is it like the content that's bad, or the fact that you found it on the street that's bad, or the person who used to have it made it bad? I mean, yeah, I'm not sure exactly how to answer that question. I need more directed. I'm very literal, so. So Angela says, well, at least we have all his books. Yes.
Well, almost. When he was taken by the Nazis, or the Gestapo, anyway, they took, and he was going to make a 4th book, but they took and destroyed all the material. They stole he had a chain of gold talismans he had around his neck, and they took those and destroyed them. So most of Barden's stuff, after he published the books before he got taken by them the second time, thrown in jail, anyway, and died in jail from a pancreatic related problem, I think it was. But yeah, so there was a lot more potential there, and he left some bits and pieces. If you're interested in checking out some of the other things that were published by his students, there's been some bits and pieces and some papers and things that have gotten published since then, since the 3 main books. Those
and then the fiction
those are the
Bravado,
yeah,
which is about his life.
Yeah.
Okay, so Julia says, I finally took the leap to get the Toth, the tarot deck, I'm assuming. Everyone's saying hello to everybody.
Well, that was my favorite tarot deck because for actually using the tarot, it's the only one that I made that would work for me that I would consider accurately. All the rest of them I don't have much luck with, and I think it's just a personality thing with me myself. But I do kind of favor that deck if I'm going to use the tarot.
So Julia says tarot cards and to get 2 of Barden's books. Balloonhead says, what are y'all's favorite ways of doing magic? Whatever works. Whatever seems to be the right thing to do in the moment. Being in the moment helps a lot to figure stuff out. I mean, yeah, I don't know that I have a favorite method, like whether it's spellcasting or doing rituals or
Well,
invoking
I
or
kinda do,
evoking,
but I'm still working on it. And if I had to say my favorite method, it would be the Kabbalah, as Barden speaks about it. I don't know if people are aware of this, but he mentions that you can work through his 3rd book potentially without going through the first 2, except that he says it take a lot of time to learn the skills to do it, but you can use it, so you don't have to actually wait to finish his first 2 books to go for the Kabbalah. So that is what I've been doing, is going for the Kabbalah myself. And so far that's my favorite, accomplishing something by the words, but I haven't practiced enough yet to get it as adequate as I'd like. Yeah.
but it definitely affects you, because there's certain
Oh, yeah.
letters that when you're working on them, you have this specific reaction.
Oh yeah, they affect me very
And then
powerfully.
you notice, and I notice,
Yes.
and then you have to do something different to let them settle. But yeah, it can be very powerful. And every so
Yeah.
often I can hear them echoing through the ether.
Mostly that's what I use them for, self-development at this point, because that's what I'm working on. But I eventually would like to get some of these things down to working on a more material level. But that should come with practice.
So Angela says, is what's on the tape scary? I just destroy the tape if if the content is bad. Nick says, I was told the person made it bad. So the person who watched it made it bad, or they made a bad tape. Canary says hi to Eve. Eve says hello to Julia. Angela says, that's a terrible way to die. Yikes. Yeah, not fun. Balloonhead says, oh wow.
To answer Ava's question, which
I just got to, why did they take him?
they used the excuse he was made a lot of homeopathic remedies and healing remedies and things, and they wanted something to get him on. So what they charged him with was alcohol. He made his own alcohol to use with the herbal concoctions and things.
Making tinctures.
And so he and I think it was Dr. M.K., one of his students, got in trouble for that. They basically took him away and said he was a charlatan and doing false healing and that kind of stuff.
Basically practicing medicine without a license.
Yeah, practicing medicine without a license, and they got him on the alcohol charges, and it was like, I don't know, just something illegal about using your own alcohol. He wasn't buying it from the state. It was kind of an excuse to get him in there, and they didn't believe him when he had the pancreatic problem. They didn't believe he was sick and just ignored him, so he died. Yeah.
And pancreas is very painful.
I heard that's what I've heard. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a fun way to go, even when you're under medical care, from what I understand. So Eve says, of course they did. Nick says, okay, thank you. And Eve says, silly old trance. Angela says, congrats on the tarot deck. Violet says, which tarot? Is there a Barden tarot? No, the Toth deck is what she was talking about, which is Crowley's deck.
Yeah. No, Barden gives images of 3 tarot cards, one for his first 3 books, and says they correspond to the first 3 tarot cards. So that's all we have of a Barden tarot.
So Jonathan says, are you feeling anything to do with Saturn at the moment? Saturn is apparently extremely strong for about the next month until it leaves Aquarius, so I'm mostly focusing on Saturn for a bit. Well, it's my ruling planet since I am a Capricorn. And so yes, I am feeling it strong, but it's a supportive planet for me. And it helps me to get through things.
Well, yeah, there's potentially lots of positive aspects associated with Saturn, including one is the connection to the infinite. That's one specific.
And making my
And-
obsidian mirror during this time seemed to be perfect.
Yes,
for so many reasons.
Akaja, and then had a brain cramp.
Sorry. Angela says I was congratsing whoever got the new tarot deck.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Saturn.
Saturn, yes, we were talking about Saturn.
Yeah.
And,
So
and Saturn is,
also,
is the karma planet, both good and bad karma.
well, yes, it's also heavy, and that heaviness can correspond to manifesting down like wealth and ownership of items and things. So it's the positive aspects. If you have that, you know,
Coming.
yeah, you want to make a positive karma, not the negative. But
Yeah, the judges of Saturn
yeah,
are not easy to watch.
That's the problem with Saturn. It can be positive or
negative.
The negative, yeah.
But in any case, it's powerful and strong.
Yeah,
and I
people
think
just-
that's the thing that people react to is like they're not used to that kind of energy. When I saw the heads of Saturn at the trial of my first husband, it was very odd to see their heads floating above the judge. But I knew what they were immediately. So yeah, it's kind of interesting. And they can make recommendations, but then again, we have free will and we don't have to follow them. So Julia says, pardon my typing energy today. Angry energies around me today. Even obsidian isn't helping. Sorry. It's no fun. Angela says, I get along with my whole collection of cards. They all snap to it when it's reading time, so I use some more than others.
Yeah, well, it's all individual ability, and my tarot reading ability isn't great. I'll freely admit that.
So Jess says, hello. I have a question that no one has been able to answer for me. When I do spirit communication, I feel very weak afterwards. What's going on and what can I do to stop losing energy? Okay, first of all, it's not an uncommon reaction because in order to do spirit work, you have to allow yourself to be somewhat ungrounded to make the connection. And so you're in a state of altered consciousness, an ungrounded state while you're doing the connection. So the best thing you can do after you're done is eat and do grounding exercises. You can have a stone near you that you can grab when you're finished in order to earth yourself back down and take yourself out of that alternate state of reality that you're in when you're doing the communication stuff. And it's sort of, accepting it as it's a side effect. It's sort of like if you were going to climb a mountain, you're going to go to a place that has less oxygen. You can slowly get used to the idea of having less oxygen and you can adapt to that. Your body can adapt like the Sherpas do.
You'll learn how to not give too much energy, give the energy just to the communication part and not put everything over, restrain some of, keep it more on a mental level, less emotional, things like that.
Well, even with that, there's still this sort of after effect. Like when I was doing the channeling,
I know.
Afterwards I would feel extremely spaced out, giddy. I would be feeling uncomfortable, laughing, and feeling insecure. Not insecure, sort of like more like I wasn't sure if I'd done something wrong or said something wrong or more people were looking at me and I felt insecure that way. But that's one of the reasons why usually if you're going to do a big ritual, there's always a feast afterwards. And that's the reason for the feast, is when you're going through that process of entering an altered state of consciousness and being in a different energy field for a period of time, eating helps to ground your body, it helps to ground your mind. And so that's what I would recommend that. And Eve says, I do concur there, Ian. And Violet says, have you read for Botto? Yes. Both of us have.
I should explain that one a little bit, since there are some people new to Barden too. I consider that it's basically virtually a true story, though it's technically a work of fiction, and Barden wrote the outline for Botto, but he didn't write the actual text, which was done by one of his students and his secretary, because he died before he was able to flesh out the text. But most of it comes from, what his students have said, his outline and things like that. And it seems to be fairly accurate. We did enough research to find out that the bad group that he was talking about in Frabato really exists out there, or at least it did. And so everything I've been able to find out about it, it seems like it was more or less accurate as far as, at least accurate as far as the techniques of magic and the way they're used in that book. Since I can't say how much is actual fact out of that, at least you can rely on the magical information in it being correct in the way they go about it. It was done by his students, and he has some really advanced students who could basically do what he did. At least there was at the time. I'm sure there still are.
So Canary says, what do you think about people talking about God spousing, or people having intimate relationship with deities? Do you think it happens, or something's deceiving them? Is it safe? Any opinions? Or healthy? I think it would probably be on a case-to-case basis.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say it's, safe in some instances.
I think it depends upon exactly what these people are talking about. If they're talking about having an intimate sexual relationship with a god or a goddess, it's probably more fantasy fulfillment, because the deities don't need that kind of energy. But it doesn't mean that you can't have an ecstatic experience when you're connecting with a deity. So if they're marrying a god or a goddess, it's similar to nuns in the Catholic Church, similar to the priests in the priesthood. So there certainly is a historical correlation as far as what that means. But I think I'd probably want to have more information about exactly what they're doing. Are they dedicating themselves to this deity? Are they subsuming their own free will in order to have the relationship with them? Exactly what is it that's happening in this spousing thing?
Right.
Do they think they're getting pregnant and making god babies?
And the methods differ too. The one, Swami Vimalananda, which is hard to pronounce. Glad when I get my teeth back. Anyway, he got in intimate communication with Kali. He got forced to do it pretty much at gunpoint, basically. But what he had to do was sit on a corpse in the cremation grounds, a corpse of a young girl, and you pour oil in her mouth and make a candle out of it. You sit there invoking Kali under that environment. And so sometimes what you have to do may not be very
palatable.
Yeah, it depends. There's a lot of different gods and goddesses in a lot of different ways. There's tantric methods also, in which the goddess is invoked into the woman and the god is invoked into the man, and then tantric sex occurs. If it's done right, there's some definite stuff to that that's valuable. The best way to find that is in the old Hindu texts and things that
Yeah, I think that one of the questions to ask about any kind of relationship like that is it making the person who's doing it unable to function in society and unable to make their own choices or decisions.
Exactly.
And if that's the case, the answer would be it's probably not a good thing.
Yeah, it should be if it's
should be empowering.
Yeah, empowering. I like that word for that.
Yeah. But we're just spitting ideas here, since we don't know who you're talking about.
Well, and again, like I say, you need to know what the practices are and everything else to judge, and then if the person has a character. I think everybody gets a basic idea of Kali's character. There's a lot more to it than her external appearance, though. Anyway, sorry, don't want to get us off subject.
Okay, Jonathan says, hi to Canary. Every time you are here, I'm glad all over again that your folks didn't have you committed that week. I hope you are well. Ava says, oh. Eve says, personally, I just kind of go with what I know. It does take practice if you have to really be in tune with heart-mind connections. Mary says, Jonathan, I've been close. So if that happens, I'll send them after my granddad, who thinks he talks to God out loud, or any other of them hypocrites. He says, practicing medicine without a license, you say? That is my soul person. Yeah. Canary says that Jonathan,
Not
I'm
only,
well, thanks, hope you're good.
let me add to that. Practicing medicine without a license. Barden was a doctor. He had
a medical degree?
He had a medical degree. So he wasn't practicing medicine without a license.
That's true.
They just wanted to find things to get him on, so they used that as part of the excuse.
So it was making alcohol without a license.
Yes.
Okay,
and
sorry.
There are pictures of Barden in his medical training. He's standing there with a skeleton and some other people and going through that. So we know he had an actual medical degree. Sorry.
Okay, that's fine.
Don't want to be inaccurate.
I agree. Accuracy is good. So Canary says, Jonathan, I'm well, thanks, hope you're good. And Canary says, Eve, I love it. Julia says, at Jess J, the easiest way to regain your strength after being in spirit is to eat, which is what I said. Ground yourself like that and visualize the excess energies going into the ground out of the soles of your feet. So we are compatible in that sense. Angela says, they were just heads. Yes, they were floating heads. There were 3 of them, and they were floating above the judge, above him, kind of thing. So, and they were watching the court proceedings. And it was clear that they were there to help the judge. So I thought it was fascinating. So I guess if judges are tuned into why they're there and what their role is supposed to be, there would be that kind of connection. They may not be necessarily consciously aware of it, but I could see it, so it was a surprise. Moonfire Dawn says, it's a miracle Barden's books are still around. I'm grateful you introduced me. I'm into book 2, and I have so much to go yet. I'm amazed at the amount he's already covered. Yes.
Oh yeah, it's a huge amount of information, and Barden's books are going to stick around because he has a large following of his actual students and things around Czechoslovakia and Prague and
it's now the Czech Republic because they separated out.
Okay.
Yeah, they were a forced country, and so now they're the Czech Republic and Slovakia, I think.
But there is a large hardcore group of his students over there who have followed the instructions of the books all the way and are perfectly capable of using the Kabbalah to do things and who've got through them all. So they're out there. They don't show themselves off because they're very serious about what they do, so they keep it private. But if you dig around a bit, you can find out a lot of helpful information that they put out.
Okay, so Eve says, I would go with a biscuit and walk in bare feet for grounding, nothing too heavy. Yeah, it's going to be a personal choice. Yeah. Ava says, whenever it's dark, I always see a static or something foggy and things flying around. Are these spirits? I'm thinking most of them are, but some of them are thought forms. I see that too. So, I mean, if you're seeing things, thank goodness we don't always see them because it'd be extremely confusing to constantly be bumping into your thought forms, someone else's thought forms, the nature spirit wandering through the house to get somewhere else, people on the other side of the planet thinking about you and sending you their thought forms. I mean, it's going to be crazy. But yeah, I think mostly that they are. At least it's the opening of the third eye. It indicates that. So Violet says, bye guys, love you guys. Bye Violet. Angela says, that explains why I want tea and food after magic sometimes. I jokingly call it magic munchies and didn't realize it was a reaction. Yeah. I mean, you're using energy. Yeah. You use up energy, you need to replenish. That's the way it works. It's like, it doesn't matter. If you're running, then you need to replenish. If you're, doing magic, it's the same thing.
If you start doing Barden's exercises after not doing them, you'll find that the brain activity of the meditation, the concentration and stuff, it makes your appetite go up. It's just as if you're doing physical labor.
Yep. Ava says, I see it better when the room is dark. Yeah, that's because you're not able to focus as clearly with your eyes, and that allows the other part of your vision to come into play. Eve says, bye to Violet. And Angela says, blessings to Violet. Balloonhead says, that Judges of Saturn thing sounds interesting. You just mentioned something about them giving suggestions. Does that mean you can reach out to ask for guidance from them? Well, when I got my suggestions from them, it was via someone else, someone I knew, who for some reason they tapped him and told him their suggestion was that if I stayed with my first husband, then I would learn a lot really quickly and get through it. But my first husband was a serial rapist and was in prison, and I decided I was not taking that advice. So maybe they were right, but I didn't have to do it. But I don't know. I mean, they, like I said, they sent me the suggestion via someone else.
Really, to get advice, I'd recommend one of the heads of the zone girdling the earth rather than a Saturn being, because there are other aspects. Their range of power is so wide, they can apparently be very difficult to deal with or even to contact without feeling like you're living in a nightmare and that kind of thing.
Well, when I do the binding with the mirror spell, I connect with the judges of Saturn in order to present my case just like you would in a court and say, this is what this person supposedly has done. You can see this better than I can, so you can tell whether this is true or not. But these are the charges that have been levied against this individual, and so I leave the punishment up to you. If it's wrong information, if I'm being lied to, then you will know that, and then they'll get good karma.
Yeah, well, that's a good way to deal with that,
And I figure, there's just some things it's like better to leave it to someone who's got a bigger view or more information and that kind of thing. Jonathan says, thanks for your thoughts on Saturn and mentioning you feel it is strong right now. It confirms what the charts suggest. Yeah, and I find it interesting that this is when I chose to make my obsidian mirror. And I was like, I started it before the end of the year. I finished it after the year began and before my birthday. And so all of that seemed to have been important as far as timing went to making the mirror, because it sort of crosses time in that sense, two different time periods, and it's kind of like creating its own doorway, from one to the other that somehow makes it, in my brain, seem good. I don't know, but it certainly is a strong thing. So Jonathan says, I want to connect with Saturn now for the positive aspects you mentioned. Yes. And Eve sent us a star or a comet or something, which is cute. I like it. Just says, thank you so much. I really appreciate your answers. It gave a bit more depth to the reasoning. The sensation is like a portion of life is sucked out of me, and it feels so draining. Do you have, yeah, let me read the next one. I even thought maybe they were potentially negative energy disguising as good, but I started to feel that maybe it's just how it affects me, so what you said makes sense.
Yeah, you have to be careful in any of your magical stuff that you don't drain yourself.
And a lot of times, people that work with spirit a lot, as medium kind of scenario, whether you're a conscious or unconscious channel, have what they call a guardian spirit that is sort of like their gateway person, or their what do they call that? The guardian at the gate kind of thing. It's like
guardian the threshold.
No, that's not what I'm thinking of. Well, well, anyway, they're the person that sort of makes sure that nothing negative is coming at you, makes sure that they have permission from you to do what they're going to do, and takes care of you. They're sort of like, your watchdog. And certainly Moira was that for me. And every so often we would do a session where other spirits would come in and try me out, which was very interesting because I was so used to her energy, and yeah, everyone's energy was slightly different. But she was there monitoring the situation and making sure that I was safe. So I felt comfortable with allowing it to happen, and she asked me first if it was okay. So if it's happening at random and you don't have any control over it, you need to get control. It needs to be on your terms and when you're ready, because if you don't set those boundaries and make sure that you have that set up in place, they will take advantage. Because there's a lot of them out there who just love to get anybody to talk to, and so you have to make sure you're taking care of yourself. But I do think that the exhaustion is normal, just because of what I said. And Eve's like a candle out of oil in her mouth. That sounds horrifying. Yes.
Yeah, the whole thing was horrifying, considering you had to do it like at at midnight, I think. It was the middle of the night anyway, and sitting naked on a naked corpse, invoking Kali, which he was terrified to do to start with.
Because he was scared of her.
Yeah, but it turned out it was actually, believe it or not, because I see some comments down below, very successful. He ended up with a permanent connection to the deity, and there's a whole book written about it. It was written by, the author's name is Robert Svoboda, and I'll put that on here. And there's a series of books. Oh, didn't go in. Okay. You can go to the next one.
Okay, so Balloonhead says, oh, I read this term in a book, but it didn't clarify what in the world it meant. What does it mean to be a horse? I don't.
There could be, like, like one of the original symbols of the Templars was like 2 knights on 1 horse. And I'm thinking that means a type of guidance. So I believe it's like being ridden, like in Santeria where a deity comes in.
That was the first thought that came to my mind, was to be ridden like a horse.
Since we don't know what the context of the term was,
yeah, what book?
I'm just guessing, but that's my best guess on that. Yeah.
Angela says, that is horrifying. I imagine Kali wasn't too happy when that ritual was completed. Just guessing. Nope. Ian answered that. She wanted him to do it.
It's actually a traditional ritual over there, which of course very few people do, considering you have to sit naked on a corpse in the middle of the night.
Well, so, yeah. Certainly would not be on my list of things I'd be willing to do.
And it has to be in a cremation grounds or...
Yeah.
So,
anyway, okay.
Yeah.
Eve says, I'm going to have to look further into that one.
Sorry.
Canary says, that's great. That sounds horrific about Kali. Can't imagine she would be very impressed. Again, answered. Not great about Kali. Great to hear your opinion. Eve says, people think I'm nuts, but I am not. I understand. I just have too many kids to get a degree. Jonathan says, I've had extremely fun experiences with Aphrodite, twice to raise energy for specific potions. She's lovely, and I made sure there was no expectation of payment. I was very respectful. It was good. Frankie says, is there a reason, do you think, that there was 3 Saturn heads you saw? 3 is their number.
3 is the number
3 is the number of Saturn, which is not something I was cognizant of at the time. I mean, I knew a lot of ceremonial information from the time I can remember when I would do spontaneous work, which later I discovered in Barton's works and other places and stuff like that, that I knew these are the way things are done, and this is why this is the way it is.
Yeah, and the seal of Saturn is a 3x3 square.
Yeah, so 3 is the number for Saturn, so now, it makes perfect sense that there were 3 heads. And they were big. They had no bodies. They were just heads. And they were fat heads. They were they were large heads, so they looked kind of fat to me. But yes. Nick says, thank you. Blessings be all around everyone. Much love. Bye. Bye, Nick. Angela says, I love working with Aphrodite. She's such a lovely energy. Yes. Eve says, then again, I kind of like being the witch in the woods that everyone seeks out in tough times. They all heal. Angela says, you're awesome, Eve. Canary says, what I've intimate relations with deities, people say it happens astrally or just feel it the same way. People can see, feel spirit or something in other ways. Come across this concept was recently. Was very curious to see your opinion. But like I said previously, I do believe it would be a case-by-case basis.
And it can be astrally.
Yeah.
That depends, yeah. Astrally, mentally.
Yep. Balloonhead says, that's crazy. Thank you. You're welcome, whatever that was. He says, when you're really serious, you'll go outside the box. Angela says, I'm now imagining each planet with its own faces chatting with each other. Well, that's an interesting idea. I don't know that they do cross-communication, although the 2 spirits I had with me for a period of time, one was from Pluto and one was from Jupiter, and they were hanging out, so maybe so.
Yeah.
So Balloonhead wants to know what the zone girdling the Earth is.
Oh, Basically, the zone girdling the Earth is just like the zone around the other planets. So if you go to the lunar zone around the moon, you find there's lots of beings. The lunar beings are outside the moon sphere. And so the zone girdling the Earth is the one that's directly up above the Earth around us. So
Our aura.
literally the zone girdling the Earth. And it's full of different beings and things. This is also what people call the astral plane. Is the zone girdling the Earth. So everything you see people saying they find in the astral plane is basically in the zone girdling the Earth. So people traveling around astrally, being in their dreams, different astral beings and emotional forms and things like that. Everything people say about what they call the astral plane is basically the zone girdling the Earth.
So Eve says, and you will find what you're looking for. Canary says, heard people say that kind of thing with deities happened all the time in different myths. These myths not always the best outlook on the situation. Yeah, like Zeus. Ha! That guy was a cad. Those poor earthly women got punished constantly because Hera was mad. I was like, no, that wasn't good. Gatekeeper spirit. Yep, that sounds about right. Luna says, hi, Siofra and Ian. How are you guys getting on? We're alive and well.
Doing good.
Having a birthday, extended weekend kind of thing. Eve says, I agree with Siofra's take on deities. Gatekeeper for mediumship, I think. Yeah, I think that's the word I was trying to find, was a gatekeeper.
Yeah.
Well, it looks like it went both times.
Yeah, it did, to my surprise.
He says, I speak from experience on that one. Balloonhead says it was part of the preface in a book about using song and dance to connect with spirit. I have to look up the actual title. That would be The Horse.
Yeah.
Jonathan says, hi, Luna. It says that definitely makes sense. It doesn't happen at random, although I am clairvoyant, and those do pop in at random. As far as my intentional spirit communication, they just happen at that time. Luna says hi to Jonathan. Eve says hi, Luna. Jess says, especially from the middle to the end or towards the end, I will definitely take your advice to heart. Thank you again. You're welcome. And that's what it is. It's just like when you ask us questions, we give you our best interpretation first of what the question is and what is the answer to that question. And if it's not the right answer and we've misinterpreted the question, it's okay to ask it again in a different way, because communication is tricky at best. So, and we don't take that personally. Balloonhead says, I found a bunch of free books, resources in a library online. I can send you the link. Yeah, and I found some of those too. There's a bunch of, especially older texts.
Yeah.
There's a lot of free online libraries. Luna says, hey Eve, how you doing? Lod says, bit late to the chat, but I wanted to say hello and thank you for what you're both doing. Well, thank you. We appreciate that. And welcome. We had trouble getting our chat going today, and everybody helped. And Ian succeeded in fighting through Mercury's haze and got it worked. Eve says, and yet you're not into astrology? Siofra, you're more in tune than you know, I do believe. Well, yeah, and it's a funny thing, because when I lived in Saskatchewan, one of the times I lived in Saskatchewan, I had a dream about Pluto. And probably because I was connected to that guy, and I woke up and I knew what that planet at the time represented, and what it was for. And I told my friend Gary, Zyla, I think was his name, and he was like the best astrologer I think I'd met up to that point. He was very good at putting the story together and making sense out of it. And I told him what I had dreamt, and he was kind of annoyed because he thought it was the best explanation he'd ever heard of that planet and its influence. And how the hell did I know? And I'm like, I'm sorry. It just sort of popped into my dream while I was there. So, I mean, astrology is different than the actual beings that live on the planets, though. So, I mean, you don't have to have astrology to connect with them, and you can know astrology and never connect with them at all. So,
however, it can help if you know it. If you know the astrology, definitely use it in connecting to the beings.
Canary says, Saturn, hey Earth, how are your humans getting on Earth? Luna says, sat in my circle last night. We were talking about a particular deity when I was suddenly aware of a very intense energy directly underneath me. My circle is to keep nasties out. is it possible that deity energy can enter my circle? Well, if
Yes.
it's, yeah, I mean, when
Generally,
we would,
unless you specifically focus on keeping them out.
yeah, I mean, when we would do the sacred tree meditation and the healing chant in our temple, that with a full circle casting and everything else, we would often, not always, but often, the goddess would come down the center when we were focusing on the light energy coming in to the center of us, the way we were connected and making our whole circle a single tree, and the energy would be amazing and intense. And we were never trying to keep that out. I mean, that was really, as far as I was concerned, the point of making that kind of connection. And that's often the first time people discover that deity is real, because a lot of times people don't believe in the concept of deity because they've been raised in a religion where deity is used as like a bludgeon or a hammer to keep you down and control you and so forth. And if they haven't had a personal experience, positive experience with an energy outside of themselves that's not them, then they think everyone who's having an experience is just projecting outside of themselves because they don't think there is something there. So the first time you actually encounter a separate being that can't be you because it is so completely alien and different from what your energy is when you discover that they're real. That doesn't mean everybody's going to connect with them, but yeah. So Joy says, what is your birthday? Tuesday, the 17th. I'm going to be 73. I'm very impressed. I'm in pretty good shape for 73. All the other women I know my age are like not in good shape at all. So I guess I did a good job when I was younger taking care of my body and not abusing it too much. Although I definitely abused it for a while. Loonhead says, ooh, cool. I've been trying to astral travel on and off for many years. I always fall asleep. I haven't to figure out what works for me. Yeah. And Luna says, happy birthday, Siofra. I'm awful with dates. And it had totally skipped my mind. Hope you had a great time. Well, I had a great time last night with my son and his wife, and it was like for the first time in I don't know how long, my whole family was together in the same place, except for my grandson. He was the only one who didn't make it. But like my entire biological family was here, and that was neat. It was like I really like the fact that my son decided to move up here because I left Santa Cruz in 90, I think 91. Yeah, I think it was the end of 1990 or the spring of 90 that I left, and it was 91 when Ian and I met. And my son hasn't lived near me since then. So that's 30 years, a little over 30 years. So yeah, that was kind of a significant thing. So Eve says, I'm doing well, Luna. How about yourself? Luna says she's great. Eve says, I love your guys' channel. So much information. Thank you. Told ya. Moonfire Dawn says, some gods were naughty fun. Just looked up how the centaur came to be. Oh, yeah. Well, and it was funny thing about words. One day I thought to myself, why is a person born with both sexual organs called a hermaphrodite? And I looked it up, and Hermes and Aphrodite had a kid, and it was a boy, and Aphrodite's husband at the time, Hephaestus, found out about it, and so threw the child from the heavens, and Aphrodite begged a water nymph, to cushion her child's fall, and when she did that, their two selves merged together and created one body with both male and female attributes. And of course, Hermes and Aphrodite, hermaphrodite. I'm like, well, duh, that was so friggin' obvious. Why didn't I know that already? I'm like, did I have to really look that up? So yeah, it's kind of interesting. I just like, whoa. So Angela says, talking about deities repeated does get their attention when I find myself reading their lore or saying or writing their names. I feel them at times. Oh yeah, definitely. And I like looking up ancient poetry for them. The Greek deities have got a lot of really awesome poetry that was written in the. I think Homer wrote an ode to a lot of different deities. One of his things, and just I like randomly every so often I look up like sayings, poetry, or whatever to different gods and goddesses and see if something clicks. Which is actually how I found the thing to Aurora, the goddess of the dawn, who's like a personal deity, I guess, because she and I have had a connection for a long time, and I memorized the poem to her, and it's cool. He says, "If you say it, it must be so. Don't forget." Luna says, "Thank you, Siofra. Good to know." John says, "Luna, you asked me to remind you to ask something related to Mabe. Or maybe." Eve says, "I find it to be in the best ways to connect with deity." Joy says, "Happy birthday." Thank you, Joy. Eve says, "I'm not winning the spelling bee, I know, but you all know what I'm saying." And yes, and that's fine. My son asked me what Ian has has a sensitivity and an allergy to milk products, and so I came up with the dinner, and so I suggested mashed potatoes and meatloaf because it'd be easy for Ian to eat, and he likes it and I like it, and so my son wanted to know what they could do instead of milk for the potatoes, and I put oat milk, and my phone changed it to oatmeal. And my son was very confused. He was trying to figure out, how do you use oatmeal to make mashed potatoes? So that was hysterical. It's like autocorrect sometimes. So he called me to find out because he decided it was worthy of a in real-time conversation. And then I looked at my phone and realized it said oatmeal. And I was like, why is he asking me about oatmeal? I don't understand. So yeah, that was hysterical. Balloonhead says, I remember the first time I realized what it meant to feel like someone was in the room with me but not see anyone.
That's
Yeah.
an interesting sensation.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, when it happens, it's just so like hair standing up on end, kind of, whoa, somebody's here. Canary says, if you really want to astral travel, put moldavite and other strong crystals under your pillow, or things like mugwort, or just focus putting your body to sleep but not your spirit, and then push when you're ready. Oh, this is funny. When you feel tired. That's how I do it anyways. I accidentally left my body when I was constipated on the toilet. So apparently pushing I can do that too. That was very bizarre and unexpected. Oops, come back here. Angela says, definitely true words cast spells. That's why learning to write them is spelling. That's one way of putting it. Luna, Canary says, feel tired. Oh, we did that. I added that to the end. Luna says, my eldest daughter has been experiencing lots of very vivid recurring dreams recently. Nothing bad, rather good. She says she wakes up feeling drained and dizzy, though. Is there anything she should do to try and prevent this? I don't know if she's happening in her dreams. I'm not sure exactly what you could do. You might want to like give her a piece of hematite or something like that. Some kind of a grounding stone that she could grab a hold of as soon as she wakes up when she's having a dream like that. Maybe that would help. And Angela says, oh, I just found out about that deity. Aurora? Balloonhead says, I like writing songs for the deities I work with. That's lovely. I love that
Good
kind
way
of
to
stuff.
work with them. Yeah, absolutely.
I got a lunar song when I was working or volunteering up at the prison on my way up there one day. And I share that in my Pagan Songs video. That was kind of a spontaneous thing. That doesn't happen all the time, though. Luna says, thanks for the reminder. Angela says, I like to write them little poetic prayers for them. Yeah. Balloonhead says, gasp, I'm allergic to dairy too. Yeah, and it's an allergy, not just a sensitivity.
In my case, yeah.
In his case. Luna says, we use water in our mashed potatoes and knob of vegan butter. I really like the creamy texture of the oat milk. They have a creamy version of oat milk, and so it doesn't water it down as much, but yeah, whatever works.
Works really well, actually.
Yeah. Angela said, the first time it happened to me, I said, can you show me you're not a trick of my mind? You don't have to be drastic, but just show me my mind's not playing tricks. And Canary says, oh no, that's amazing about projecting on the toilet. That's lethal. Yes. And yeah, it wasn't it was a very strange situation I found myself in. I just put all kinds of goop on myself. Would Aurora be the equivalent of Greek goddess Eos? Yes. And I tend to go with the Greek names, but with Aurora, because I lived up north and the Aurora Borealis was everywhere, and I was really connected to that, I decided to stay with the word Aurora. But the poem was to Eos, and I changed the names to Aurora. The deity responded by hugging me. It was nice. Sorry for the misspelling earlier. No problem. Angela says, turns out there are some.
Statues.
Oh, did I miss that up top? Yeah. No, Hermes and Aphrodite's son. I love reading obscure myth. I was surprised I even looked up a statue. Turns out there are some. There's a lot of deities around the world that have both male and female body parts. And certainly in Hinduism and stuff like that. Hermaphroditic? Anyway, yes. Merged gods and goddesses together to create a single form. The Shakti Shiva tapestry is the best example of that. That is quite remarkable to see. I love that tapestry. Thanks, she should have a grounding stone in her collection somewhere. My youngest daughter peeped into my eldest daughter's bedroom when she visited recently. She whispered to me, is she a witch? Opal says, I like almond milk. Yeah, so do we.
Yeah, you know, that stuff is good. Soy milk.
There's a lot of different,
as
depends.
Long as you get some brands taste lousy, but most of them are all good. I like all of them if it's not a flavor I don't like.
Oh yeah, like coffee cake.
Coffee cake, oat milk creamer.
Yeah, that one didn't go over very
Didn't
well.
go over well.
Balloon has said, thank you, Canary. Luna says, I answered, I think so. She just doesn't realize it yet. I think there's a lot of people that are witches and don't know that they are. They're just natural, but not identified.
Right.
Canary says, you're welcome at Balloonhead. And it says, her room is witchier than my whole house. It is a funny thing. It's like, we had like a vacuum cleaner salesman come to our house when we lived in Medford. And he came in, and I've got like altars all in the living room and crystals and statues everywhere. And I'm thinking, oh boy. Never noticed. It was like it wasn't even there. Just says, okay, that's awesome. I like Planet Oak brand, our preference here at home. Yep. TM says, really enjoyed your last video about reclaiming your power. Very inspiring. Thank you. That's why I ended up doing 2 of them, because it's such an incredibly important and intense subject. And there were still things I didn't mention, I'm sure. So. No, it wasn't that. I think I won't read that one out loud, but Angela says, my nephew came in after I lit a general protection candle and asked if I light candles because I'm afraid of something. I told him, nah, just in case. I think it's important for us to, reshape society, and one of the ways we can do that is by becoming ourselves more and taking more charge of our own internal dialogue and stuff like that.
Of course, that's one of those things that's hard for easy to say, but boy,
it takes a lot of work.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. Balloonhead says, I got called one for the longest time before I agreed that maybe I was. Luna says, my eldest daughter's boyfriend's mom brought my daughter the Wiccan handbook and tarot cards for Christmas, so she's well on her way.
Cool.
Awesome. Canary says, at BEP, all these other things. Sagitt Moons 54 says, hi Siofra, I finally caught you live. Welcome. We only have a few 10 minutes or so left. We're going to go the full hour and a half since we had that glitch.
Right, so you'll have to tell me when that is.
Yeah, I'm watching them. I'm at an hour and 20 at the moment. But welcome and thank you for being here. And Balloonhead says, cool. Angela says, I didn't know I had been one since once I found the path, everything I did as a kid made sense. Yes. Shay says, this has been a wonderful, lively live feed. Thank you, Siofra, Ian, and all. Have a safe, marvelous week. Enjoy Avatar and Sushi, Siofra and Ian. Love you guys. Talk to you later. Or talk to you soon. Blessed be. Bye, Shay.
Blessed be. Bye, Shay.
So, since you are our new person, Sagitt Moon, do you have any questions you would like us to answer since we have a few minutes left? Luna says that Angela, same here with the stuff I did and thought as a kid. I know. When I read Starhawk's book, I was just like, well, yeah, that was me.
Well, I wish I could say anything like that, but as a kid, I was all 100% on the technical aspect, and I wouldn't consider reading a fantasy book. I mean,
Fiction.
I was a real hardcore, just science, technician. Yeah, I'm glad I got over that a long time ago.
Okay. Canary says that Balloonhead, same thing happened to me, but probably from a different angle. Balloonhead says they know a lot. Angela says, yeah, and I've been trying out the stuff kid me did and altered it for my practice. Well, the wonderful thing about the child within is, like, getting back in touch with that gets you back in touch with natural magic and that wonder, awe, and acceptance of the world as being something that is new all the time and ready to accept, explore, and experience. And I think a lot of times as adults we get out of that habit because we're trying to block things out. Angela says, oh my god, my first spell candles yesterday with my new technique were so intense the wax poured out onto the decks. Ooh, that doesn't sound good for your deck.
Well, wax will be easily removable from a tarot card, though, if they're standard glossy tarot cards printed nowadays.
I guess. But yeah. So yay for them being more intense. People get different responses. Desk, not decks. Oh, okay. I recommend tile for your desk. It's easier to clean up the wax. Then you can just go scrape it off and wash it in the sink and get rid of it that way. I guess the autocorrect is continuing. The typo fairies are tormenting me. They're tooth fairy siblings who step on all the wrong keys. Balloonhead says, I remember I used to find pictures and faces in patterns on the floor, and I would make up stories to pass the time if I was bored. That's awesome. Jess says, thank you guys for doing this. It's so important. I found you guys today, but already watched many videos. We'll be recommending. Blessings. Thank you, Jess. And that's one of the reasons why we put them out, is so that, we can be available as a resource. At least with us, you're going to get our honest opinion. Liking it's not necessarily a requirement.
That's one of those things that comes with age. It starts like, just say my opinion.
Yeah, and experience.
Not trying to, you don't have peers and peer pressure and all that. You get older, it's just like, yeah, we're just old people.
Yep, Canary says, I used to just be tipping full-blown big candles onto my tiny spell bottles. Didn't always end up well. And Luna says, I still do this. A lot of people have gotten into birthday candles, and of course there's a whole thing, smaller, they call them spell candles because they're bigger than a birthday candle so they last longer, but they're smaller than a regular candle and thinner round so they take less time. So if the spell calls for you to burn the candle all the way down, you don't have to wait 8 days because you can only have the candle there when, Hey, we got a new member. Welcome, Saggy
Yay.
Moon. Whoops. Let me get up there a little bit. Angela says, my tiny niece scooped up 2 of my tarot cards from yesterday and held them up and said, once upon a time, a princess became a queen and she ruled the kingdom inside a mirror. Ha!
Cool.
That's pretty fantastic. It was the High Priestess card and the World card. Well, perfect. How awesome is that? Chime candles, yeah. Loonhead says, I've been meaning to ask this. What are those columns behind you and what is that angel statue? Columns behind me are PVC that I painted to look like lapis, and they are fire braziers, which Ian would really like to light, and I won't let him. And then the statue with the wings is a victory. My daughter gave me that candle holder because she found it in a secondhand store somewhere and thought I would like it, and she was correct. Canary says, birthday candles. Why did I never think of that? Also, yes, you don't have to wait 8 days or something. Angela says, I know, my mind was blown. Awesome, Balloonhead says. Little kids are crazy cool.
Yes, they are.
Yeah, Luna says that, Angela, that's a great way to begin with storytelling using the deck. My little girl started like this. Yes. Canary says, my cats keep smashing my candle holders.
I'm sorry.
Get wooden ones, then they won't break.
We had a cat that kept burning out.
Of course, wooden ones might catch on fire, so never mind. Don't listen to me. Metal ones, maybe?
Anyway.
Yeah. Get metal ones, not wooden ones. Glass ones are the ones that shatter. Metal ones might survive a cat knocking it over.
Our cats burned out 2 subwoofers we had one particular cat by knocking the power cord out while it was operating in full operation, and they just went pop.
Jonathan says, I would also really like Ian to light them. Sneakiness is not a sin. This is probably true, but...
Well, I think you would jump pretty well if I were to light one behind you.
Yeah.
The flame goes up pretty good.
And me and fire, we have like...
It's cool, though, the alcohol.
I have like a, kind of thing, because the first thing I remembered when I was a kid was being burned at the stake, so...
They're cool, though. We've
They
used
are
them
cool.
before. They don't harm anything.
I know. Linda says, I love stories like that. You're very handy. Yeah, I don't have enough money to buy like an entire lapis column, so I made my own. I looked up how to do it, and that was before YouTube. Canary says, if I burn my flat down on wooden candle holders, I'm coming back to this channel. That's why I corrected myself. Luna says, stop encouraging Ian. I'm watching you. Angela says, you have an understanding when it is around, it behaves itself or it goes out. Yeah. Otherwise, it's doomed. That's right. That's the way that works. I do sometimes yell at things and tell them to behave. And usually when I do that, it works. It's like they have to. I guess it's that, Ben Gesserit kind of voice. I do that with people every so often. It's like, you will stop now and turn around and go back. Okay, I'm going back now. But yes, so that is the power of the spoken word, like we were talking about earlier. So now we only got 2 minutes left. So I guess it's time for us to start saying goodbye. And thank you guys for helping us get this thing up and running. Technology. Liz says, birthday blessings for the 17th. Siofra got the date right finally. And thank you both so much. Have a great week all. Thank you. Really appreciate that. And we look forward to these days. It's nicer when technology works without a hitch. But hey, now it should work fine because we'll be running off of this one. Canary says, goodbye, everyone. Blessed be. All kinds of fun stars and hands and claps and everything else. So, yeah. It was fun, even if we had like a rocky start. Ian says, goodbye. Thanks for your presence and blessed be everyone. Author says, happy birthday. Thank you. Bye all, says Ruth. Blessings, hugs, and energy. Bye. Blessed be. Yay. Okay. Guess I'm going to go now. Love you all. Always send me questions if you need to.